I'm back. I've been digging in my shorts again. If you want to know what I found, stay tuned for the video. Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. I've been digging in my shorts again, and I've come up with some awesome stuff that I want to share with you guys over the course of this video. I've spoken about this title before, but the channel has grown tremendously, and I'm honestly not sure if the vast majority of you even recall me talking about this. So when I was going through my short boxes recently, the title jumped out at me, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to share this title again because it remains one of my favorite titles / story arcs, really, of all time. And over the course of this video, I'll try to explain why that is the case, and to also explain why you should consider at least reading this. If not buying it, at least reading it. And so the title that I'm talking about is The Eternals. And so here's issue number 1 of The Eternals, and I was fortunate enough to pick up almost 2 full runs of this book several months ago, and I did it long before there was any rumor or discussions about a possible movie. I think that they've gone on to hire a director and I think 2 writers to actually work on The Eternals. The reason that I picked this title up was, there was one reason. There was one primary reason that motivated me to get this title. And it was the fact that the entire story was conceived, written, and drawn by one man. And that man was Jack King Kirby. Over time, I have learned to appreciate Jack Kirby's artwork. I honestly was not a fan the first time that I experienced his artwork, but as I guess matured as a collector, matured as someone that appreciated art, but more importantly, I would say as a student of history. And as soon as I realized the significance that Jack Kirby played in comic book history, I knew that I had to pick this title up. There was a stretch where I was watching all kinds of documentaries and videos and anything that I could find that was related to Jack Kirby because I wanted to better understand him. You know, it's relatively easy to understand Stan Lee, right? If you read comics, Stan wasn't shy about inserting himself into the comics with his, sarcastic comments, "Nuff said," "from Stan," that kind of stuff. And so you kind of get to know Stan through short snippets, and then with the movies that came along, you got to know him even better. And he wasn't shy about doing interviews and things like that. But Jack Kirby wasn't quite that way, and so trying to understand his significance to comic book history, it took a little bit more work for me. And once I began to expose myself to him and his artwork, I began to appreciate the significant role that he played in the creation of so many characters, but then also I better appreciated his artwork, and I better understood like his relationship with Marvel, his relationship with DC, and how he kind of moved back and forth between the companies. And in The Eternals is part of that legacy, part of that history. And again, this is a title where he was essentially given free reign by Marvel. He came up with the idea, he wrote it, and he drew it, and he did an incredible job. But Jack Kirby, if you've heard anything about Jack Kirby, he thought differently. He carried himself differently. And as you read this body of work, it reads and it looks very different from other things. And so, you know, when I first picked the title up, I struggled just a little bit with getting into the style of writing because it wasn't something that I was used to seeing. The artwork wasn't necessarily something that I was used to seeing, because his artistry is a little blocky, is a little thick. Very creative, right? Don't get me wrong, but it took some time for me to kind of get into the flow of things. And he is essentially laying through his writing an incredible foundation that I think a lot of writers and artists have done things with, you know, more recently. But he was essentially laying a crazy foundation. And so I'm not going to tell you the whole story of the Eternals, because I think that you should read it. But it centers around a father and a daughter who are archaeologists, and how they become exposed to some entities that are not necessarily of this earth, right? And so they over the course of the story, you learn about essentially 3 different groups of individuals. You learn about, of course, humans, but deviants, and you learn about the Eternals, and, well, technically I guess it's 4, right? So there's humans, which you already know about. There's the deviants, there's the Eternals, and then there's the Celestials. And so, you know, the way that the story goes, because you may know some of this already, is that the Celestials essentially came to Earth, experimented on apes or early man, however you want to look at it, and essentially created humans. They created deviants, and they created the Eternals. And each one of those people, each one of those groups essentially served a role. You know, the deviants were warlike, and at various points kind of dominated humanity, enslaved humanity, tried to essentially threaten the Celestials, and were struck low. And then you had the Eternals, which were kind of more godly-like and closer to the Celestials than were humans or the Deviants, where they had, you know, essentially superpowers, right? They could fly, they could levitate, they could affect matter. They were very powerful. And so, you know, as you kind of go through the various issues, you get to better understand the role that each of those groups play, how they interact with one another, how they interact with the Celestials, and it really is just a great story. And you actually see some elements as you read this. Some of in the very first issue, it to me was reminiscent of Aliens. Aliens, the movie. I think it's Prometheus. There were elements of that movie that remind me of issue number 1 of Eternals. And if you look at what happened, I think in Avengers, the new Avengers, well, I should say the most recent Avengers, I think it was issue 4 or 5, they actually do a little bit of a retcon on the Celestials and some of the groundwork that Jack Kirby laid in this particular book. And so even now, I think that you see Kirby influencing movies, influencing current books. And I think it just speaks to this, at least in my mind, the significance and the value of this title, but certainly of Jack Kirby himself. So if you have some time, if you have the resources, I encourage you to check out the Eternals, because it is not necessarily an easy read for like the first 5 or so issues, but it is a good read. And I think if you like Jack Kirby, you will appreciate the artwork. And I think it's one of those things that people should have in their collection. So I want to show you guys some of the cool covers of this entire run, and I have every single one of them, including the annual, because again, I thought it was just an incredible title. I actually picked it up several different times, and there's even one on the wall behind me back there. I think that's number 2 back there. So here is Eternals number 1. This one looks incredible in a wonderful My Light there. Here is number 2. And this is where the Celestials kind of strike back at the Deviants, who decide that they are going to tell the Celestials that they're not pleased about their return to Earth. I think that this is the first appearance of the Celestials. I want to say it's one of these first couple here. I think it's this one, maybe number 4. But you see Icarus here. Really, really nice cover by Jack Kirby. Here is number 4, Night of the Demons. I think that's Sif right there. Here is number 5. Really cool cover. Couple of the other Eternal characters making an appearance. This is the father of them all. Here is number 6. This guy's, I think his name is Mercury, if I'm remembering correctly. Here is number 7. You can actually see the Celestials there on the cover. Here is number 8. Just every one of these covers to me is just really, really striking. Number 9. This one, I think is just, this one is incredible to me. Number 10. And one of the recent Avenger covers actually pays homage to this particular book, again by Jack Kirby. Here's number 11. Probably need to put these rest of these in some My Lights, like the first set there. Here's the Unimind, number 12. The Unimind actually makes an appearance in another Avengers book after this came out. I can't remember which one, but I remember I bought a collection, and on the cover there was the Unimind, and I knew exactly what it was because I had read this book just recently, and so I set it aside. It's in one of my boxes, and I actually need to pull it out. But you've got Ajax here and the Unimind in that one. Here is number 13. Number 14, I got super excited when I saw this because I thought Incredible Hulk was in it, and I'm not going to give it away, but yeah. Here is number 15, some more Incredible Hulk action, and Icarus here on the cover. Number 16, number 17, really cool cover there. This Nerve Beast is just, this is a freaky creature. Number 18, number 19, and then the last one, that was the last regular issue, and then the next one is the King Size Annual number 1. And I actually have, again, multiple copies of most of these. And so super pleased to have these in the collection. I think they are awesome books. And again, if you guys have the resources or the opportunity, I encourage you to pick it up, read it, check it out. I don't think that you are going to regret the time spent. As always, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that you enjoyed it.